Bismillah Rahman Rahim, Salaam Alaikum, and welcome back to another episode of Muslims Uncensored with your favourite Five Pillars team member Robert Carter and arguably the least favourite Five Pillars team member Roshan Saleh. Welcome back, Roshan, and
I'm all right with that.
You at home.
I don't seek popularity. Only vain people seek popularity.
Well, what can I say?
Insecure people.
I humbly accept all of the praise and popularity I've received because I've joined Five Pillars. I'm not going to misplace it. Since joining Five Pillars, I think my profile has boosted because the brand is so big and successful.
You'd be nothing without Five Pillars, let's face it.
Maybe. All I will say is that since joining Five Pillars, I've been blessed to receive a lot of wonderful thanks and congratulations. Yeah. People I've never met before come up to me now at protests and shake my hand, all because of the good work Five Pillars do. So I'm leeching off of the work that you and Dilly have set down.
Absolutely.
Taking full credit for everything, by the way. I noticed that Dilly won the placard, you know, that YouTube placard. Once you get 100,000 subscribers, you get this.
Dilly didn't win it. Five Pillars won it.
Five Pillars won it. Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, after I joined, we suddenly got a boost, and then we won.
No. But you know, we're on over 150,000 now, I think. But
yeah, since I joined, you've seen a spike. Since I've joined, you've seen a massive spike.
I'll have to check those
now
numbers.
You're winning these placards, so I think I'll take credit where it's due, right? Since I joined in October.
How was your holidays in Dubai?
Non-existent.
You've been off for about a week, haven't you?
Roshan's got this thing, by the way, where any time I'm away for like a short space of time, Roshan goes absolutely crazy. I understand I'm a very valuable member of the team. I'm a must-have at all times, but I'm sorry. I like all the football teams, they put their best players to rest for a couple of games just to get them fresh and ready for the big fixtures. That's what I've had to do every now and then. It's just, put me on the bench for a bit, just.
So you're back raring to go now after your
back raring to go, of course, after a short break away, but Muslims Uncensored
away from the UK.
No, I'm so English that I just don't go anywhere. My roots are here, so I'm just
I saw some on my Twitter. Someone was accusing me of having a jet set lifestyle, and basically, why aren't you why aren't you getting arrested? And instead of that, you're swanning off all over the world.
To be honest, I think Roshan
couldn't be further from the truth.
I think Roshan has tried his best to get arrested with some of the stories you've done, but no police have taken so far. But we're a humble team here at Five Pillars. We're a very humble team. The first story I want to focus on actually is it's been St George's Day. I'm sure you celebrated the day, Roshan. You're a St George's Day regular, I think. But the day was marred by violent scenes in central London. Surprise, surprise! Who would have thought that on St George's Day there would have been a bunch of thugs show up in central London, start punching police horses and whatnot?
Is that what they were doing?
So, I don't know, something like that. There were scuffles with police. Obviously, as people there on the day, these right-wing fanatics and loudmouths, they're all blaming the police, saying there's a two-tier policing system in place, that anyone who waves an England flag gets battered by coppers, but if you wave a Palestine flag, you're somehow given this special treatment, as if that's even the thing. But everyone was going on about it, and now it's going viral online. You obviously saw some of the footage. You commented about it on Twitter. Do you want to respond about what...
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously... They're accusing the Palestinian marches of being violent and whatever. And if you think about all the millions of people that have marched over the years, over the last few months, last 6 months, you'd be hard-pressed to find any violent incidents. Very few, which get replayed endlessly. But this was quite a small demo, right? Or a small celebration in Trafalgar Square. But you're guaranteed a punch-up when it comes to the right wing, right? And I like it how they're all dressed up as crusaders as well, because do they know that the crusaders were a bunch of losers? And they raped and pillaged their way all the way from Europe to the Middle East. And they actually raped and pillaged lots of Christians as well.
And Jews.
And
Muslims.
And they lost. And in the end, they lost as well. They got absolutely battered. So is their role model basically a bunch of rapists and pillagers and losers?
And like Jew-killing lunatics from history, I suppose so.
But I don't think Tommy Robinson and his ilk are. I don't think they're students of history, are they? Really? They won't be found. They're not often found in libraries. That kind of.
Well, it's funny you say that because Tommy Robinson did make an appearance on the day.
Right.
I believe I saw some footage going around of him talking, and he was whipping up public sentiment against the jihadi threats and all this type of anti-Muslim conspiracy theories of some kind of Islamist takeover being planned, perhaps by us, I don't know, but that's where they accuse us all the time.
To see a response to their two-tier policing. We've been waiting for 6 months to see an end to the jihadis taking over this capital city.
Laurence Fox also made an appearance, and I just wanted to highlight just how stupid these guys are. These guys are like the leaders of the movement right now, you know, like right-wing, knuckle-dragging losers who hate everyone who isn't exactly like them. Laurence Fox, Tommy Robinson, these are the kind of people they look to. GB News, I suppose, they're GB News viewers. But Laurence Fox, again, was the source of ridicule because he's called for a boycott of Nike because of the England kit. They released a new England kit, and the England flag was changed. The colours were changed, and everyone was screaming about it because it looked a bit trans and a bit queer, and they were all a bit, you know, outraged by it. So he called for a boycott of Nike. He shows up to the protest wearing Nike shoes, of course. He's also pictured trampling all over an England flag in said Nike shoes. So, I mean, this guy's just he's entered a new realm of idiocy. So if this is the guy who's leading the movement, then I think that Muslims shouldn't worry too much, because an idiot like that could never, of course, pose a real threat to us. There is a clip, however, I want to play out very quickly of him on St. George's Day, and he's basically haranguing and swearing at police officers. I'll just play that out now because I think it's interesting for us all to watch.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Oh my God! He's got me manhandled by some copper.
Stop talking to me like you're my boss, because you ain't, all right?
You wouldn't see it. You wouldn't have someone pushed over. Like, I was literally just crossing the road and I just got pushed over by a cop. Well, not pushed over, but pushed.
Don't Don't me. You are policing by consent in this city. Don't talk to me like I'm some slave of yours.
I mean, that's the first time I've watched that, actually. I didn't watch it before the show. He should be arrested.
Well,
if I had done that to a police officer, sworn directly at a police officer, I would have been arrested. You would have been arrested. Why isn't that guy in jail?
That's what I'm talking about, because again, all these guys, they show up and they go, why are the police picking on us? Well, I mean, there's a reason. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe
they're scumbags.
Maybe you're doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you're inciting, maybe you're showing up drunk in a public place. Maybe, maybe there's a history of you guys showing up at events and getting into trouble, attacking Downing Street gates and running riot in the streets. I mean, these guys are literally thugs. But yeah, one of the other things I want to showcase real quickly, Roshan, is that, you know, this is the type of crowd that would waggle fingers at us and say, oh, you Muslims, you're coming over here, you're not integrating, your values are backwards and barbaric, why don't you conform to English values and principles and behaviour and all that type of stuff. But I mean, if you look at their behaviour, I mean, they make English values look horrible. If anyone's backward and barbaric, it's those thugs that showed up in central London on St. George's Day, quite frankly. And I mean, there was a recent event in Birmingham. Some Muslim brothers and sisters came out and did a bit of dawah work on Birmingham streets, and they were giving out like free food. They were encouraging non-Muslims to come and talk to them, to debunk any concerns that they had about Islam. They were praying. They were keeping to their space in the street. They weren't blocking the street. They weren't fighting anyone. They weren't punching police horses in the face, or breaking any laws. So I mean, if any set of values, what set of values would do well for England? Islamic values, or those so-called English nationalistic values that we saw represented on St. George's Day outside Downing Street? I think it's an easy answer, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of our trolls on social media, they say, oh, if you don't like it here, why don't you pee off somewhere else, you know? Go back to Muslim, you know, go back to Muslimic countries.
Go back to Mecca.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, we might be a little bit irritating to flag-waving Brits, but we're well-behaved people, aren't we? We obey the law, and we're well-behaved. You know, we treat people with respect, and we have alternative, dissident views, and we call out, you know, the hypocrisy of Britain and British policy at home and abroad, but we are well-behaved people and we contribute something to society. We pay our taxes. We're nice to our neighbours. These guys, I mean, if anyone is a candidate for those Rwanda flights, it's these guys, right?
Deport them all now.
So that's my question to you. If you are a reasonable flag-waving Brit, you know, not a right-wing nutter, but just an ordinary Brit, who would you want to see deported? Would it be us, Okay, we can be a bit irritating, I know that, but ultimately we're tax-paying and we obey the law and we're nice people.
And we're peaceful.
Or the guys that go up, for a punch-up down your town centre every Saturday night, swearing, racist. Who do you want to see deported?
Drunk out of their minds. These flag humpers.
They're still going to say the Muslims, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these flag humpers need deporting, don't they? Because I mean, just look at the trouble.
That's a good one.
Just look at all the trouble that they're causing.
I can't get that image out of my head now. Flag humpers.
That's what they are, isn't it? I mean, they're so obsessed with these flags, if it's actually that meaningful. It's like, oh, the flag, the flag.
Winston Churchill, the flag, British Bulldog.
They don't even respect the flag. I mean, they wear it on their underpants. Do you know what I mean? And their shoes. I don't know. These guys are as thick as two planks.
But they are the foot soldiers. I mean, obviously, we hate them and they hate us. But they are just the foot soldiers, aren't they? For the puppets behind the scenes.
Probably unemployed as well.
Yeah, of course.
Unemployed.
And who are the puppet masters? I don't know. It's like the Tories, right? The right wing, Swallow Braverman. It's like
that's their constituency,
GB News, the media, the right-wing media.
Yeah,
these are their foot soldiers.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. But anyway, quite funny in the meantime to watch unfold. Well, let's discuss something else because there's obviously a lot going on. Actually, this links kind of to this incident. There was a video which went viral thanks to 5 Pillars. I think we posted it and really made it go out there of a racist incident occurring where a Muslim sister who was walking from a Palestine demo, she was basically confronted by a passerby. His name was Terry Uri. And let's play out a clip now in case anyone hasn't seen it of what took place.
If we don't like you, go back to Muslim fucking country where you come from. We are a Christian country. We don't like you. We're a Christian country. We don't like you. Go back to England. Fuck it. Go away from England. You are a cancer. You are a cancer on our country. You're a cancer on our country.
So the image of the individual will be on screen now. The police obviously have seen the footage. It went absolutely viral. It's been watched by millions of people, quite frankly, especially after we shared it on 5 Pillars. And as far as I know, perhaps you could update us. The guy's been arrested, right?
He's been arrested and charged. Yeah, 55-year-old guy, I think from South London. So we need to follow this up and go to his trial, whenever that is. I
mean, there's a few things here. I mean, obviously it's horrific. The guy was disgusting, his behaviour. But, I mean, the guy, it was a bit funny because the guy can't even speak English. He's obviously standing up for England, right, against these Muslim threats. But he's summarised everything that's wrong with this country, basically. This pathetic, cowardly act. A drunken lout going up to a woman and just screaming at her all this foul language. I mean, again... Who's worth deporting to Rwanda? Is this absolute scumbag?
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, you say it's funny. I mean, yeah, I get what you mean, but at the same time, it was disgusting, isn't it? I mean, this and because it was women, he's basically, I don't know how big he is, but obviously he was a lot bigger than them, and they seemed to be on their own walking down the street. No one intervened. There were quite a few bystanders that I saw walking past. Literally, no one intervened. I mean, this country is pathetic that way. Yeah. And when I was growing up. In the 80s mainly, late 70s and 80s, everyone would intervene. In this country, everyone would intervene. If something like that happened in the high street, everyone would intervene. Now everyone's scared. They're scared of getting battered. They're scared of maybe getting into trouble. But we have this culture of non-intervention in this country. So these racists can get away with it.
I think the justice system has to be blamed for that as well, because in this country, in a situation like this, if someone was to stand up for the woman, a passerby, a guy, for example, if he stood up and defended the woman, if he ended up getting into a fight with this guy, you would probably end up getting in trouble just as much as he did, because you may have...
No one just said anything to him. Just say, oh, you're being rude, can you stop it? Well, no one even said anything to him, know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the fact that no one even said anything or got involved at all whatsoever is disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful, you're right.
I've been on buses, for example, and, someone's been really offensive. And no one says anything. The whole bus, no one says anything.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's ridiculous the way this country's going. But again, it's the breakdown of I think it's, again, it feeds back into the breakdown of religion, because religion teaches you to be a good Samaritan, basically.
Yeah.
Even not even just Islam, but Christianity as
Yeah.
well. It would say, no, you have to stand up against oppression, and this type of behavior would be very sinful, and obviously you'd be publicly shamed. In a religious society, you can never walk around and behave like
in a
this.
Muslim country, that guy would have got battered.
Absolutely,
He would have got absolutely battered.
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
wouldn't have dared done it for that
Exactly.
reason.
Yeah, exactly. Going around the street drunk as well, you'd be given probably a good hiding just for showing up.
Bit of Sharia law coming his way, yeah.
Yeah, so again, what set of values would do England better? Islamic values or this type of value system? I don't know. That's a good question to ask yourselves, dear viewers. But I have to say, I think one thing I know time and again with all of these English nationalist types that hate foreigners, they can't speak English. They
No.
really can't. This guy was telling her to go back to England one minute, then he was telling her to go back to Muslim, whatever that mean, and he couldn't even speak English properly at all. They were slurring words.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was just because the guy was drunk. I think his grasp on the English language was pretty poor. So again, they keep pushing these things on Muslims, like, why don't you learn the language? Don't speak your language in my bloody country. But why don't you learn the bloody English language first? I mean, read a dictionary or something. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, we're going to pursue this for sure. The incident happened in Romford. So I think this is a reminder, by the way, that our sisters need protecting right now. Islamophobia is it's spiked. I mean, even the government is engaging in Islamophobic rhetoric, which is talking up threats, Islamist threats, and that type of thing. And the Palestine rallies are kind of the center point of a lot of smearing and hateful language. So I think it's just a reminder to be careful out there, because this guy was just using vile, abusive, racist language, but someone else might come up to one of our sisters or someone else and physically attack them next time. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's escalating now, so we have to be really, really careful. And always film, if something like this happens, film it and send it to us. At least we'll get the guy famous, even if it's for the wrong reasons. Let's go to the next story here, which is Gideon Falter.
Yes.
This is a really interesting story. So basically, there was an incident which happened at a pro-Palestine rally where, according to the initial narrative, basically some Jews were walking around central London at the time of a pro-Palestine rally, and they were warned away by a police officer. And some of the language he used was basically, you're visibly Jewish.
Yeah.
So he was telling them to basically move away and you shouldn't be here. And this obviously was whipped up by press as basically an example of anti-Semitism and Jewish no-go areas in London because of the pro-Palestine demonstrations. But the story's evolved now, so I'll hand it over to you, Roshan. Where are we at now with this story?
Oh, so much to say.
And how's it evolved since it was initially?
So much to say about this. I mean, I think, let's look at the incident. So the mainstream media have portrayed it as a Jewish guy was basically stopped from crossing the street during a pro-Palestine march in London. No-go areas for Jews in London. The Met Police has apologised to him. It's become this massive story. Politicians have got involved. They're weighing in on the Met, saying they're not strong enough, against this anti-Semitic atmosphere that the pro-Palestine marches are engendering, etc., etc. So we need to pick this apart, probably at a bit of length, unfortunately. The first thing to say is that I saw all 13 minutes of this incident between Gideon Falter and the police officer, and I think the police officer needs to be commended for what he did. Because basically what he was trying to do is he was trying to keep two antagonistic parties apart, like you would at a football match, to prevent an incident from happening. Because he surmised that this Gideon Falter guy was antagonistic to the marchers, which is true. He is. And they would probably be antagonistic to him because he's a Zionist and he's pro-Israel. So all the police officer was trying to do is protect the safety of both the marchers and Gideon Falter himself. Where the police officer fell down is that he explained to Gideon Falter that he's not allowing him to go there because he's Jewish. He's visibly Jewish. He shouldn't have said that. And I don't think he even meant it. I think what he meant is, I know you're a Zionist, you're pro-Israel, and that's why I don't want you to come in contact with the marchers.
A bit like if you're at a football match, like you say,
Yeah.
If someone's obviously an Arsenal fan, you'd point that out and say, that's the reason why I'm not allowing you to just mix and mingle with Tottenham fans because of what could happen.
The potential for violence or whatever. And that doesn't mean the violence would have happened, but he was taking an operational decision at that time. There's hundreds of thousands of people on these marches. the police sometimes have to take quick decisions. Maybe they don't have the time to, maybe they don't explain themselves properly, maybe they get things wrong at sometimes, but they just have to take quick operational decisions. And that's what the police officer did. So I think the police officer should be commended for his professional attitude. I don't always say that about the police, but on this occasion I will.
Now, before you elaborate anymore, because again, this story has developed more than that.
Yeah.
Just explain who Gideon Falter actually is, because obviously he isn't just a normal,
Jewish
ordinary guy walking in the street.
He's not.
There's more to it than that.
Yeah, so this is where I blame the mainstream media, because they have presented him as such. An ordinary Jewish bloke going for a walk on a Saturday afternoon down in central London, and this injustice happens to him. Gideon Falter is the chief executive of the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, which has become prominent over the years for suing or conflating anti-Semitism, I would say, with anti-Zionism, and aggressively, taking legal action against certain people. I think they were behind the Nazim Ali case and many others. The pharmacist who was the anti-Zionist pharmacist. So they take legal action against pro-Palestine activists who they deem to have, veered into anti-Semitism. So he's an activist. He's a pro-Israel, pro-Zionist activist. Also, I think he is a board member of the Jewish National Fund, which is a settler organization, which basically promotes settlerism, whatever the word is, in occupied Palestine. And I consider that whole area to be occupied Palestine, including Israel. So this is a guy that is an activist. He's not an ordinary Jewish bloke. Now, there was also speculation that he hired some bodyguards who had worked, I think, in the past for the Israeli government, and work for an organization which is run by two ex-Mossad guys. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so basically it's doing the rounds on Twitter now. So obviously a lot of the footage of the incident has shown that he wasn't alone. Gideon wasn't alone. He had some other people with him. And one of the individuals has been named as a member of a group called the SQR group. And he was basically believed to be a bodyguard. And this group provides security for the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, last December. So
Right.
it's a security firm which this individual has been named to work for. So he was possibly providing security to Gideon on
And this
the day.
security firm is
And
run by
this-
two ex-Mossad guys.
And this firm also happens to be run by two ex-Mossad officers. This is a tweet by David Miller, who, of course, has researched
Right.
into these type of subjects very, very well, the anti-Zionist academic David Miller. This has now been brought to the public attention by activists on Twitter, and it's doing the rounds now. So now questions are raised about what was Gideon Falter's intention of being there on the day. Was it really just to cross the street randomly and he happened to bump into the pro-Palestine demonstration? Perhaps not. Now I'm going to play out another clip which I think is really interesting while we're talking about this. It was a Sky News discussion about the incident, and a former police officer was giving his views about what's going on, and he brought up some really interesting points about the prospect of certain individuals or groups which might be engineering trouble to try and ban these pro-Palestine marches. Let's play out the clip now and see exactly what.
The march is going to go ahead. You can't ban these marches. The legal basis doesn't exist to ban them as such. So you can't ban them. It's going to go ahead. You're now going to get counter, and we had counter protests the last two the demonstrations. You're going to get a counter protest. You're going to get people almost trying to create a situation where there's going to be disorder. Because the only way that can ban these is if there's a likelihood of serious disorder. It seems to me there are, I'm not saying this is Mr. Falter, but there are some sections of society who clearly just want these marches to be banned. The only way that will happen is if there's serious disorder. My concern is that if we have people keep doing this, trying to almost like engineer a situation, there will be a confrontation. And the people that have to step in and deal with this are those police officers on the street. It's a really difficult situation. And the people that have to step in and deal with this are those police officers on the street. It's a really difficult situation.
Because I think Gideon Falter, he's called for a ban on these marches several times already. I know that he was driving some kind of van, some pro-Israel van near the marches as well. The campaign for anti-Semitism against anti-Semitism has continually called for a ban on these marches. So basically, they're instigating. That's what I think is happening. I think he's an instigator. I think they're instigating. Now, he can come on this show, or he can come publicly and answer all of this, And if those guys, if he was an ordinary Jewish guy going for a walk in London on a Saturday afternoon, why does he need a bodyguard? What he needs to answer these questions publicly. If we're wrong, we'll apologise and we'll take it all back and we'll say that publicly. But he has several questions to answer, and he ain't answered them yet.
This idea of Jewish no-go zones in London at Palestine marches as well, I want to address that,
yes.
because it's an accusation that's been made even prior to this incident, so it's not necessarily got anything to do with Fulcher here. But just in general, these are hate mobs which are hunting down Jews on British streets, and that no British Jew feels safe going into central London on a weekend now. Well, that's not true.
No.
Because I know, I've seen, and I've spoken to, and I've hung out with many Jews whilst attending these pro-Palestine marches, and there's a nice healthy mix of Jews there. There are secular Jews, there are religious Orthodox Jews as well, and they're pro-Palestine, they're happy and comfortable to be there, they go in and week out.
Yeah.
There's never been an incident that I've witnessed of obvious, like a Jew being battered because he's Jewish at one of these demonstrations. So I think that, this is a nasty narrative which has been spun, and I think, again, it falls into this, what this police officer was warning about. Maybe there are groups here, and I'm not naming any individuals behind this this plan, but maybe there are groups or individuals in this country that want to basically get these protests banned, and they're willing to say and do anything that they can in order to achieve that, even if it means saying things that factually aren't true, like Jews feel a threat going to these marches, when the fact is Jews attend all the time.
I think close to, if you look at the Five Pillars website, there's actually a statement from about 5 or 6 Holocaust victims, including one Holocaust survivor, I think, who were close to Gideon Falter when that incident happened, and they were on the march, So the Jews have been marching on these marches in their thousands over the last 6 months. They're very welcome there.
They speak on stage.
Yeah,
they speak on
stage. There's no anti-Semitism that I've seen. Of course, there's millions of people marching, so there might be 1 or 2 idiots that say stupid things, no doubt about it. But that is not reflective of 99.9% of the marches. But I guess if you are a pro-Israel Jew and a rabidly Zionist Jew, and you support everything that the Israeli regime is doing at the moment in Gaza, and you go on those marches, you might feel uncomfortable, yes. So that kind of Jew might feel uncomfortable. But there are Christians who support the Israeli regime who would also feel uncomfortable going on. There are even some Muslim Zionists, believe it or not, or atheists, etc., etc. Nothing to do with Judaism as a religion whatsoever.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, everyone's welcome at those demonstrations, Jews, Christians, Muslims, whatever the colour of your skin. There's a lot of anti-racist movements that are part of the pro-Palestine bloc, anti-racism movements and stuff like that, anti-colonialism movements. The only people that I would say that aren't welcome at that protests are genocide supporters. People who support genocide, people who support Zionist apartheid, they're not welcome there. But it has nothing to do with your race, religion, or anything like that. Let's go, since we're talking about Israel and how pathetic Israel is, let's talk about their embarrassing response to Iran. So obviously Iran, there was a real talk of World War III. We discussed it on the last week's episode. I think we weren't sure what was going to happen either. No. We were discussing about Iran's response. Was it a meaningful response? Was it theatre? These were the questions we were all asking about Iran. And Western mainstream media were literally, even the government was saying that Iran's attacks are failure. It's a humiliation. Israel should take it as a win because it was so unsuccessful. But then look at the pathetic state of Israel's response. I mean, Roshan, give me your thoughts. They apparently targeted Iran, but no Iranian actually knew about it.
If Iran's attack on Israel was theatre, then Israel's response was like, Play School or Punch and Judy, whatever, It was laughable and pathetic. I mean, there were images of people in Isfahan, which wasn't too far from the base that was hit, apparently. They were chilling, man. I mean, they were just chilling and going about their day with their kids and, having ice cream and whatever on the banks of that beautiful city, which I've been to myself. Whereas the Israelis, they were scurrying towards their bomb shelters when Iran, launched those missiles. I mean, Iran's attack was a limited attack and nothing to particularly boast about, I don't think. But compared to Israel's attack on Iran, it was like World War III, quite frankly, It was like Hiroshima and Nagasaki all put together, because they sent a few drones over, and I don't think anyone knew they'd been attacked, and everyone was laughing at the Israelis. I mean, I think for me it proves a few things. One is that I do think the Americans and the British constrained them a bit. I think maybe Israel wanted to launch a bigger attack, But I also think it's that they're scared of the Iranians, and I do honestly believe that. People might criticize me for saying that, but they don't want a wider war because they know that while they can inflict serious damage on Iran, on anybody, a wider war also potentially means the destruction of Israel. Israel's a tiny country. It's a geographically small, relatively small population. It's actually against their interest to have a wider war. And I think saner people in Israel also realize this. There are some crazies like the, what's his name, Ben Gvir and Netanyahu and others that might want to have a apocalyptic war. But Israel stands much more to lose, and that they're scared of a wider war.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like you said, even Israel's allies can just see like, okay, that's like too far. I know Israel, can do whatever it wants on a normal day when attacking children in Gaza. They're given free reign there. But a war with Iran would drag the entire globe
would destroy the world economy. And obviously, we know that the worst thing for people in the West is not actually women and children dying in Gaza. Yeah. It's having their food prices go up and petrol prices go up. Because it's a capitalistic society, that's all they really care about. So that's what's really going to hurt them. Yeah.
So it was a it was a rubbish response. It was like pitiful, pathetic. I think ultimately their response, whatever you think of the Iranian attack
I want to say
Israel,
a word, but I can't say it. But they're a bunch of, it begins with P and ends with S. It's quite, I don't know how, about 8 letters. There are a bunch of those.
Yeah, I think, but they made the Iranian response look really, really successful. I think that's what
they made Iran look like Rambo, Schwarzenegger, Predator, whereas they look like some, I don't know, LGBT trans activist fighting
They identify
Rambo.
it as having a strong response. But let's end it there because that pathetic response isn't even worth talking about. Really, it's hardly even made the news. Let's talk about India now. Yes. Indian elections are coming up, and of course, right now, India is run by a fanatic, Narendra Modi, who's pushed a very sectarian form of Hindu extremist politics onto India, and has basically, through his tenure, has seen anti-Muslim pogroms roaming the streets. There's an intense rise in anti-Muslim hate crime and violence. Muslims are getting killed in India, basically. Yeah. And there's worry and concern of a genocide against Muslims, all under his watch. And a recent example of a speech he gave has only brought those fears back to the surface as he whipped up tensions targeting Muslims too.
और पहले जब उनकी सरकार थी उन्होंने कहा था कि देश की संपत्ति पर पहला अधिकार मुसलमानों का है। इसका मतलब ये संपत्ति इकट्ठी करके किसको बांटेंगे? जिनके ज्यादा बच्चे हैं उनको बांटेंगे। घुसपैठियों को बांटेंगे। क्या आपकी मेहनत की कमाई का पैसा घुसपैठियों को दिया जाएगा? आपको मंजूर है ये?
The tried and winning tactic of whipping up anti-Muslim sentiment to try and gain votes. I think you would probably be more qualified to speak about Indian politics than I would. It looks like he's going to win again, right?
Yes, it does. I mean, just look at this dog, this kutta, this basic dog. He's just such a, that's the best way. I mean, you hear that slogan at anti-Modi rallies, and it perfectly sums up what this guy is. I mean, normally he refrains from being blatantly anti-Muslim, even though we all know that he is, simply because as the head of state, he has to have some kind of respectability. So he's normally reasonably restrained in his language. Not reasonably, but we all know the context of what he's saying, but he lets his foot soldiers do the actual lynching and torturing and targeting of Muslims. But obviously it's election season now, so he knows that he needs to do a bit of that himself to get more votes. And yeah, I'm sure the BJP are going to win. I think the Congress party, which has been the party of power in India since independence, it's a bit pathetic now. India is turning into this Hindu nationalist state, and all minorities are unwelcome, but especially Muslims, but Christians as well, Dalits, untouchables, etc., and many others. It looks like a win for Modi, which is likely to happen. I think June is when we get the results because the elections are staggered over a few months. It's such a huge country. A win for Modi is going to entrench anti-Muslim discrimination for another generation at least. I'm learning a bit more about India. I've never been to India, although I was born in Sri Lanka, very close to it. So I'm learning a bit more, and the main problem seems to be in the north of the country, in states like Uttar Pradesh and just northern India generally, where you have this kind of Hindutva madness going on. The south of the country, they're less powerful, and in places like Kerala, which I think is a communist state, they're actually quite pro-Muslim or have enlightened policies towards Muslims there. So we shouldn't make the mistake of thinking this is the whole of India, but unfortunately the power base of India, which is the north, that's where it's happening. I think as 5 Pillars, we've taken the strategic decision to really focus in the next year. We have been for a while, but to really focus on the Hindutva threat in India. We have appointed a correspondent out there, but we're also looking at the Hindutva diaspora here in the UK, the US, and other places, because this racist Nazi ideology is spreading around the world. Obviously, India is a powerful state. It's the second most populous country in the world. It's a continent within itself. It has nuclear weapons. It's military powerful. It's getting economically more powerful. So this literally is a threat, I would say, on the scale of perhaps Nazi Germany, in the 1930s, if it is allowed to develop.
Yeah, because I have to say I've been shocked and appalled by the language that's become prominent inside India. It doesn't get translated all the time in English, and the Western mainstream just totally ignoring the story. They talk about it on occasion, like when a massive riot spills over and there's loads of Muslims killed, they'll start to talk about it briefly. There was also incidents of violence that occurred here in the UK. I think it was like 2 years ago now in Leicester and Birmingham. We covered it for 5 Pillars, and this was blatantly radicalization across the Indian diaspora. So this hateful, nasty, filthy ideology, Hindutva, was coming over to here. And we were seeing incidents of Muslims being attacked in this country by radicalized Hindus, basically. They were using the same Islamophobic, anti-Muslim language that we see now in India and things like that. And it broke down community harmony, and we saw the tensions that we did. I just hope that the authorities here are actually on top of this and they actually realise what's going on, because they weren't then, definitely. The police didn't know what was going on in Leicester. The media didn't know what was going on. We were among the very few that did. And once, of course, the Islamophobes in media realised, oh, actually, it looks like Muslims are the ones who are the good guys in this scenario, they began to spin it and adopt
the narrative, turn it upside down.
propaganda. There's a very powerful India lobby. It's not as known as obviously like the Israel lobby, for example, or the Saudi lobby, but there's an India lobby here as well that's pretty influential.
Because they're seen as model citizens here, and that's because they've compromised on all their beliefs, and they don't hold to their religious beliefs like we do. We're seen as the problem community, whereas, Hindutva is basically like Indian Zionism. There's parallels with Zionism. And what you said there about Indian youth being radicalized in this country, it's absolutely true. But I don't think Prevent are looking at that too much.
No, they're not interested at all.
And also I would say Jewish youth are probably being radicalized as well, because, literally Zionism is teaching Jewish youth in this country that what Israel is doing in Gaza is righteous and the correct thing to do, the genocide that they're committing. So I think that young Jews are being radicalized in this country, as well as young Hindus.
Yeah,
and I don't believe in Prevent. I don't even believe in transferring Prevent onto other communities. But if they're not going to stop Prevent, then they have to look at Hindu radicalization and Jewish radicalization in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. It just exposes the double standards that exist and the fact that Muslims are second-class citizens in this country, as you've said many times on this show before, because ultimately we're the only ones that get treated as if we're a bunch of criminals. The only reason I haven't experienced it to the same degree as other Muslims in the country is because I'm a white guy. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that.
Well, you experience it online, don't you? You call a traitor all the time online and this and that.
I do, yes, I do. So I guess I experienced that, but it's still not the same level at all. Literally, Prevent, they show up at people's houses because their kids said, instead of terrorist houses, they assume that they meant terrorist houses, so they freaking investigate their parents. But would the same happen if they were Hindutva or something like that? I doubt it. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss on the show, Roshan? Because
no, we've had quite a long show, haven't we? And we're back to Wednesdays now. Obviously, brothers and sisters, we had the show on Tuesday last week, didn't we? So there's been 8 days since the last show. But that was because of the Iran attack on Israel. I say that with a smile on my face. I don't know why, but and no comment, I suppose.
We enjoy the news.
Don't read anything into that. I'm just really into the news.
We enjoy the news.
Yeah, but we're back on Wednesdays, inshallah, and we'll keep it to Wednesdays. unless there's a breaking incident.
Absolutely. Well, I think from myself and Roshan, we would like to say a big thank you to everyone who continues to support the show. Please like, share and subscribe. Helps the channel immensely.
I do want to say one thing, because I was noticing the comments I do read the comments on every show. And I go through every single comment, actually. And
You've got nothing better to do.
yeah,
It's not like you've got
nothing
work.
better to do with my life.
Jobs
and
coming
I
in.
did notice some narky comments from people last week.
Oh, really?
I don't think they're really fans of the show, about how Robert and I are geopolitical novices and we shouldn't be commenting on, military strategy above our level. Well, believe it or not, no, I haven't got a PhD in military strategy. This is literally a chat between two knowledgeable Muslims. We do not claim to have expertise on every subject under the sun, And yeah, sometimes we might say dumb things, but we're just having a chat here. You don't have to take every word we say as gospel. I do think on geopolitics myself, I'm actually quite good, to be honest. I'm better than most experts because I've actually travelled all over the world. Jet-setting lifestyle, but I have actually gone to a lot of like war zones and this. So I experienced stuff. Instead of being an armchair warrior, I've actually experienced things firsthand. So I do think I have a right to have an opinion on certain things. That doesn't mean I'm right all the time, but chill, man. No, we don't get everything right, and stop being narky in the comments.
Seeing as we're bringing up all these issues we have with our audience, I have a few things to say as well. Shut up! Stop criticising me, damn you! But no, you keep your comments.
We do have all the power here, because like we can slag off
our
the
show.
people in the comments.
We've learned from
and
Piers Morgan.
I'm abusing my power here, and I don't care. I'm going to abuse it. But I think the people that left those comments, they were either like mad Iran supporters who Iran could Iran could literally normalize with Israel and they'd still be supporting Iran, or they were Zionists who didn't like what we had to say the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't come up with a balanced, nuanced opinion without people, accusing you of naivety or whatever.
Yeah, so
and
you didn't like those
ultimately they're
comments.
spotty kids, probably, these people, who've just never left their bedroom and all they're doing is playing Call of Duty and whatever, yeah, I'll stop there.
That was a good part of the show, I think. You venting to the audience, but
that should be our new kind of. Whenever we end the show, it should be slagging off the audience.
Exactly.
That's how we part ways.
We should do a special episode just commenting on anyone who dares comment and offends Roshan.
We should kind of name and shame them as well.
We're free speech champions here. Anyone who expresses a view we don't like, we just get angry.
Yeah, anyone who praises us, we like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you have something good to say it, but otherwise keep it to yourself. But, there was a really interesting thing while we're on it that Iran apparently, they sent over a bunch of old missiles and old drones, cheap stuff, not because they wanted to necessarily do a lot of damage, but because they were just testing and
testing the air defense as decoys.
Getting rid of some old equipment and stuff like that, by just chucking
throwing out the old rubbish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Chucking it over there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think actually your analysis, whatever it was, I can't even remember what you said.
So brothers and sisters, when you put
accurate.
When you put the bins out next time, put it in a Zionist garden.
Dump over the fence. Resistance. But no, because you said that their attack was rubbish, right? Well, I think even an Iranian professor, Marandi, speaking on Sky News, he basically said, we was like chucking rubbish, old
because they did send over a few ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. They wanted those to get through.
He basically said it was like really old stuff. Like basically, Iran wasn't even trying that hard. They were just trying to basically cause problems for Israel and test their limits.
Israel wasn't trying very hard as well, was it? At all.
Did they try?
It sent over a few toy planes, didn't it? Kind of like Meccano planes.
Paper airplanes.
Yeah,
take that, you Iranian devils.
Oh, we're so hard.
Well, there we go. Should we end it there? Because I think the show's spinning off somewhere we didn't intend it to go. But thank you very much, guys. Do make sure you share the show as much as you can as we try to battle those algorithm terrorists who work against Muslim media to keep us suppressed. But with your shares, likes and subscriptions, we can help to overcome that. God bless you all. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Wednesday, as always. Assalamu alaikum for now.